So here we have the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. Is it a tablet? Is it a phablet? Is it a phone? I'm Robert from mobileburn, and let's find out if this device has filled another niche market. Large screen phones have always been quite appealing to me, as most of the stuff I do is either browsing the web, sending emails or playing games, so I wanted to get my hands on the Sony Xperia Z Ultra as soon as it was announced. Looking at the device itself, you can see it is long but narrow, making it quite comfortable to hold, unlike something like a Nexus 7, which is quite awkwardly sized due to its larger bezels on the side. Speaking of bezels, you can see that even though they are quite thin on the side, there are no problems when holding it in terms of interference from your fingers or your palm. The large bezel at the top houses the 2 megapixel front-facing camera, which is located right next to the Sony logo. The bottom has nothing apart from the microphone. In terms of build quality, the Sony Xperia Z has a complete glass front with a screen protector fitted. Sony have started fitting these on the devices from factory. The back of the device is also covered by glass, and eagle-eyed viewers have probably already spotted the lack of LED flash for the 8 megapixel camera. Both front and rear cameras are capable of shooting 1080p videos at 30 frames a second. The frame, as well as the power and volume buttons, are made out of metal, giving the device a very upmarket feel. The ports and the microSD card slot, as well as the SIM card slot, are all covered by a flap due to Sony's continuing theme of making their devices waterproof. The IP certification is now IP58 and IP55, meaning the device can be submerged up to 5 feet of water as well as being dustproof. In terms of dimensions, you can see it here next to some flagship devices like the Samsung Galaxy S4 or the Nexus 7. It is much thinner than either of those devices at only 6.5mm, and this probably explains the thicker bezels at the top where most of the components are housed. Sony have also decided to match the design of this device with very powerful internals. It packs a quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU clocked at 2.2 GHz, along with 2 GB of RAM and the Adreno 330 GPU, making this a powerhouse compared to the current generation flagship devices. It flies through benchmarks with some very impressive results. Even graphics performance is really good, playing even the most demanding games like Real Racing 3 at high frame rates without any stutter at all. Now let's divert our attention to the party piece of the device. The phone features a large 6.44-inch 1080p display with 344 ppi. Sony have also decided to go with their triluminous displays, which features good viewing angles and increased saturation, making watching movies and playing games of this device a joy. It is still no match to modern IPS panels though. Something that I personally looked forward to a lot was the ability to draw directly on the screen without the need of a stylus, only by using a pencil. I have tried using this with a ballpoint pen with limited success, and occasionally I found the pen actually writing on the display itself. The one problem I have found with this feature is the lack of dedicated note application, like you have on the Samsung Galaxy Note lineup. There is an app called Sketch which allows you to draw and adjust pen sizes, but sadly editing screenshots is not very convenient and requires a lot of steps. I did manage to find some third-party apps on the Play Store, but they didn't work particularly well, with either screen size issues or the pencil input not being recognized properly. A big reason why I'm a fan of larger devices is the ability to house a larger battery. The Sony Xperia Z Ultra sadly has a non-removable 3050 mAh battery. Personally, I would have expected a larger battery due to the size of the device, but again, Sony's attempt to make the device as thin as possible has caused them to compromise. Battery life is below average, with a screen on time of barely 2 hours when I used it as my daily driver. There is the possibility of stamina mode, which can help increase battery life by turning off mobile data and Wi-Fi when the screen is turned off, but for me that defeats the object of a smartphone. Luckily, Sony have added a nice dock connector at the bottom so the battery can be charged without having to open a very fiddly flap where the micro USB charging port is located. Now on to the weakest part of the device, the speaker. It sounds a little bit better than the Sony Xperia Z speaker and actually makes the phone vibrate in my hand when the volume is turned up. It does distort the sound, especially when the volume is around 80%. Have a listen for yourself. The position of it is also very strange, as it can be covered quite easily when holding the device in landscape mode during gameplay. Software wise, the Sony Xperia Z Ultra is running Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean with Sony's UI on top. It is pretty much stock Android with a few tweaks around the launcher and the app drawer. You can customize the notification toggles as well as apply themes which change wallpaper and accents around the device, but that's about it. The amount of bloatware has also been kept to a minimum, which is always nice to see, and you can delete some apps quite easily with the new launcher feature by swiping to the side in the launcher. Other features include the sorting of the app drawer as well as accessing the Play Store as well as Sony's App Store. Sony have also made a nice job continuing to use floating apps that were first present in the Sony Xperia Z. These can be accessed by opening the multitasking window and selecting small apps. There are plenty more available in the Play Store, and most important ones are already pre-installed. The camera app provides the user with a great control of the images compared to other handsets. The HDR feature is also available in both photo and video mode, and the Smart Auto feature works really well on the device. Images were good in daylight, but once the light is starting to fade, grain becomes a lot more visible, with sharpness and color accuracy decreasing at higher ISOs. Sadly, there's no LED flash built in, but I personally don't see that as an issue, as I won't be taking many pictures with the tablet anyway. Now to the all-important question: is it possible to use it as a daily driver? I have been using it as a daily driver and found that it is quite comfortable to hold in daily use when browsing the web, but the size does become an issue when you want to make a phone call or just carry it around in your pocket. Size-wise, I think 5-inch displays are a sweet spot for me personally, and we're approaching the limit of how big is actually usable. It is still a very good device and worthy of being carried around to do the tasks you find difficult to do on your smartphone, like reading books or playing games or even watching movies on longer trips. As mentioned earlier, a good note-taking app would have been nice, as I can see there's been a very handy screen size for people who do a lot of work on the road and don't want to carry around a notebook. Overall, it is a great device, and Sony have definitely filled a niche with their product, but I don't think too many people will consider it due to the size and lack of note features, as there are a lot of larger devices available that do more than this oversized phone. For me personally, however, the device is perfect, as I found myself picking it up more than my smartphone when at home wanting to play games or browse the web. So thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe for more great content.